with us information on his bill, the Southern California Coast and Ocean Protection Act. Joining us today is California State Senator Catherine Blakespear, Assemblymember Tasha Berner, Assemblymember Lori Davies, Lisa Gilfillan from Oceana, my colleague Deputy Mayor Christy Becker, and Del Mar Councilmember John Spellich. We're at the Fletcher Cove Community Center, which overlooks the beach and the expanse of the Pacific Ocean. From here, we can hear the seagulls and see the sandpipers, egrets, and pelicans hunting for their breakfasts. From this vantage point, we can often see schools of dolphins right past the waves, and if we're lucky, a bit further out, at the right time of year, which is now, whales can be seen breaching and spouting. Last week we were host, and in fact they're still here, to a dozen fishing boats right off our shore, brightly lit at night to attract the squid they were catching. And of course, there are thousands of people who come to enjoy the sandy beach, waves, tide pools, and pristine environment every single year. All that we love about the beach and the ocean and a clean environment, are drivers of a strong California economy. But it is in danger. The Department of the Interior has announced the draft plan to allow drilling off the California coast. With drilling comes spilling. I was a child when the oil spill in Santa Barbara killed wildlife and contaminated the beaches, but I remember the devastation well, and it made a huge impact on me. We cannot allow this to occur again. I look forward to hearing Congressman Levin's remarks about the bill he has proposed that will stop this misguided program and the information from our other speakers that they have to share today. With that, I'm pleased to introduce Congressman Mike Levin.
Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, for that great introduction, for your incredible leadership of this community. Thanks to everybody for coming out today to stand up for this coastline that we all love. I am so honored to represent one of the most beautiful districts anywhere in the United States, and I think there's nowhere in the nation like the stretch of coastline going all the way up in my district, all the way up to Dana Point, San Clemente, down through Oceanside, Encinitas, Solana Beach, just south of us in Del Mar. Over 50 miles of beaches in our district that define who we are. And you can see, of course, a piece of it behind me. It's not scenery. This is home. This is home. These beaches are where kids learn to surf and swim, and where families gather, where people from around the world, literally all around the world, come to gather because they know how special this place is. Our entire coastal economy depends on keeping this shoreline clean. Tens of thousands of jobs just in San Diego County. Literally billions and billions of dollars in tourism, research, fishing, and recreation. It's not very complicated, folks. When the coast thrives, Southern California thrives. And we all know what happens when it does not thrive. We lived through it not long ago. Just a few years ago, a pipeline broke off the Orange County coast and sent tens of thousands of gallons of crude oil in the Pacific Ocean. I saw it myself. Went up in planes and saw it all the way down, closing beaches, car balls, washing ashore, down here and everywhere. It was an awful situation. Wildlife were killed, beaches were closed, fishing was shut down, small businesses were hurt, and communities were shaken. Of course, these communities had done nothing wrong except live on a coastline that they believed to be protected. That was just one spill, and in fact, they didn't even acknowledge it was a spill. They called it a leak. So it's only a leak. But it was just one mistake, one failure of judgment, and it still took months and months and many millions of dollars to recover. So when I tell you that the Trump administration is now proposing to open up huge new sections of our coastline to offshore drilling, understand what that means. Understand what it invites, and understand why we're all here. So what they've said is they want up to 6 new offshore leases off the coast of California, several right here in Southern California. And for what? For what? We all want lower fuel prices. Every single one of us up here, we want lower costs of living. But this, if they were to do drilling off the coast of California, would not yield lower fuel prices. It would not yield any greater energy security, really, and that certainly wouldn't be true for the people that live and work here, because the truth is pretty simple about this. The Pacific simply does not have the large, cheap reserves that the Gulf of Mexico has, and any oil that could be produced off our coast would be a drop in a global market. It wouldn't change the price at the pump, not even by a little bit. So Californians would take all the risk and get none of the reward. And here's what the administration is not saying out loud, but it's very important for me to convey it to you. The previous administration protected large areas of the Pacific from new offshore leasing. They did that from 2025 for the next several years. And that protection is not something that a new president can wipe away just with the stroke of a pen. Courts have made that abundantly clear. Only Congress can undo the withdrawals of the prior administration. And California, of course, on top of that, still has the power to block onshore infrastructure that any new drilling in federal waters would require. So the law, both the federal precedent and the state law, is certainly not on the side of this proposal. The facts are not on the side of this proposal. But most importantly, the people of California are not on the side of this proposal. And that's why I introduced the Southern California Coast and Ocean Protection Act. It permanently and unequivocally bans new offshore drilling off our coastline. And it sends a clear message that this stretch of the Pacific is not for sale. We sent this bill to every city in the district, to San Diego County, to Orange County, to the city of San Diego, and we're receiving incredibly strong support from cities up and down the coast. Several have already signed a letter of support on behalf of their council, and that includes cities run by Republican mayors and cities run by Democratic mayors. Folks who disagree on lots of stuff know that this is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. This is a California issue. This is a community issue, and this is a common sense issue. Because when you represent a coastal community, and you're going to hear from some phenomenal coastal representatives, you know the truth. One spill, or even 1 week, could devastate your beaches. One spill could shut down your harbor. One spill could erase the economic progress that your community has worked for. And once that damage is done, it is very difficult to undo. So I've asked the House Natural Resources Committee, where I served for 6 years prior to, come on up here, please. Carl's bad as me. I've asked the House Natural Resources Committee, where I served for 6 years prior to getting on the Appropriations Committee, to take this bill up. And I have a very good feeling about it because the ranking member of the Resource Committee, Jared Huffman, is my landlord in D.C., and my roommate and good friend, and the chairman of the committee, Bruce Westerman of Arkansas, is a very good friend of mine. So we're going to try as best we can to get them to take this bill up. And Congress really should do this. Our coast is far too valuable and far too vulnerable to gamble with. So I'm going to keep fighting this with legislation, with oversight, by supporting litigation, believing there are going to be lawsuits as this proceeds because of the federal laws that I mentioned, and with every tool available. My responsibility is to the people who live here, to the people's health, to their economic well-being, their livelihoods, and to their future. Not to a handful of companies that aren't even California companies, by the way, that want to drill a few miles off our shore and leave us all holding the consequences. This coastline is not another commodity. It is a legacy. It belongs to the people that are here now, and it belongs to the people who will live here long after all of us are gone. Californians have said no to offshore drilling for decades, and we will keep saying no as many times as it takes. So I thank everybody behind me for standing together. I thank them for refusing to let anyone risk what makes this place so extraordinary. And I'm now honored to introduce Lisa Gilfillan. Lisa Gilfillan from Oceana, a great organization. Lisa.
Good morning, and thank you, Representative Levin, for making all this happen. My name is Lisa, and I'm the California Field Representative with Oceana, the largest international advocacy organization focused solely on ocean conservation. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, in 2 days, I wanted to express my gratitude for living in San Diego. I'm proud to call America's finest city home because my quality of life is high. The Pacific is central to our strong, future-oriented blue economy. We're home to hundreds of thousands of active and retired military professionals and their families, and we're outspoken, innovative climate leaders here, including the folks that are standing behind me. Like millions of Californians, my family is tied to this place. I have 2 young girls, and we watch the gray whales migrate along our coast, as mentioned earlier. We visit the tide pools on those beautiful low tide days, and we snorkel with the leopard sharks every summer in La Jolla. We all depend on clean water and healthy oceans, not just for our quality of life, but for our livelihoods as well. This draft 5-year offshore drilling plan the Department of Interior released on Thursday is a direct threat to the future that we're building together. It would authorize up to 34 new offshore lease sales, including 6 in the waters of California. California has already learned the lesson of drilling and spilling the hard way. After the 1969 Santa Barbara spill that led to the inception of Earth Day nationwide, our state stopped issuing new oil leases in state waters, and there hasn't been a single federal lease sale off the Pacific Coast since 1984. For decades, Republicans and Democrats here have agreed that expanded offshore drilling is just not worth the risk. The economic engine we already have along this beautiful coastline is enormous. We're reliant on a healthy, clean, and diverse ocean that supports more than 350,000 jobs and generates more than $25 billion through fishing, tourism, and recreation. Those jobs vanish fast when there's a spill, as we saw after the 2015 Refugio and the 2021 Huntington Beach spills, when the beaches were closed and local businesses lost their income overnight. We know all too well what drilling and spilling looks like here. Oceana's research shows that oil companies already hold more than 2,000 federal offshore leases nationwide, and more than 3/4 of the ocean acreage under lease is unused. We don't need to open new areas just for companies that can stockpile even more drilling rights. To my fellow San Diegans, offshore drilling is truly a bipartisan issue. I'm joining Representative Levin and so many others in calling on the Department of Interior to scrap this plan, and I hope you will too. We have 60 days to speak up and to provide comments to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management's online portal. Oceana and local partners like Surfrider are hosting people's hearings events on December 4th at the Encinitas Community Center, so we can learn more and speak out on this topic. We would love to see you there, truly. The time is now. Let's stand together and protect our coast from expanded offshore drilling for good, permanently. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Senator Levin.
I just wanted to say thank you to Oceana for all their wonderful work, Surfrider as well. We really appreciate the partners in the NGO community, the nonprofit community. And now you're going to hear from 3 great leaders and friends in the state of California. It's so critically important that we work this in a bipartisan, bicameral way in Sacramento as well, that we stand firm. And you're going to hear from 3 great leaders in that regard. I also want to give a shout out to Teresa Acosta from Carlsbad. I bring Teresa up because the city of Carlsbad has a Republican mayor, and they were one of the first to write a letter and pass a resolution. So further evidence that this is not a partisan issue in any way, shape, or form. And I talk to my neighbors, my friends, my constituents of all political stripes, all ideological backgrounds, and they don't want to see drill rigs, regardless of their political party. They want to protect our coastline. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to a great friend and great partner, Catherine Blakesman. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here with so many community leaders. I want to start off by thanking Representative Mike Levin for his outstanding leadership and for pulling together this press conference and pursuing this important legislation to ban offshore oil drilling off the coast of Southern California. I also want to thank and recognize everybody else who is here and the environmental and ocean advocates and Californians from all walks of life who are joining us. We are all in the fight against the Trump administration's plan to open up the waters off of California's coast to oil drilling. Congressman Levin's bill, the Southern California Coast and Ocean Protection Act, would prevent new leasing for the exploration, development, or production of oil or natural gas from San Diego to the northern border of San Luis Obispo County. Congress should pass this bill. As we all know, Trump's plan to drill for oil off the shore of California is a terrible idea. I serve as the chair of the Environmental Quality Committee, and I am a strong believer in protecting our environment, our beaches, and oceans, as I know everybody here is as well. Once again, the Trump administration is showing us its disdain for environmental protection. We see this in the headlines every day. There is an allegiance to big money, big corporations, and big oil. California has not issued a new lease for offshore oil or gas development since 1968, and there's a reason for that. Offshore oil drilling means that spills and leakages are inevitable, and we've seen in California just how damaging they can be. In Santa Barbara in 1969, a massive spill of 3 million gallons of crude closed beaches for months. It devastated the local tourism industry, and it killed marine life. And then again in 2015, Santa Barbara was hit by more than 120,000 gallons of oil that gushed out of a corroded offshore pipeline. Then it shut down fishing and beaches, and it harmed marine life and habitats. I remember here on these beaches picking up little balls of oil and recognizing just how far south the oil traveled. Just a few years ago in 2021, a spill from a pipeline off Huntington Beach spread tar balls and oil residue dozens of miles up and down Southern California's coastline. In California, we follow the science, and we understand the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to combat climate change. California and the rest of the world needs to move away from fossil fuels. So for every reason, it does not make any sense to open up oil drilling. You would endanger the beauty, sustainability, and economic viability of California's ocean waters, to drill for a fuel source that is harmful to the planet and that we are trying to move away from. California is known for its many beautiful beaches and its stunning coastal setting. Not only is this something that millions of Californians enjoy, but it's key to our economy. It supports over 430,000 jobs, and it contributes over $40 billion annually. We must protect our environment and our ocean and our beaches and our economy. So for every reason, Congress should pass Mike Levin's bill. And we must prevent any more offshore oil drilling from taking place in California waters. And I appreciate all the efforts to make that happen. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to introduce Assemblymember Lori Davies.
Good morning. Although I'm now the second Republican here today, this is definitely a bipartisan issue. You know, we look at other states like Florida, and we find heavy Republican opposition to the offshore drillings. As you know, California is the 7th largest oil-producing state in the nation. We need to keep California on track and step up oil production where it makes sense. I'm going to tell you what California is doing. However, California consumes approximately 3 times more oil than we produce. The remedy that, and to keep prices lower. The California legislature recently passed SB 237, a bipartisan measure to increase our oil production in Kern County. This bill was met with environmental opposition. However, it eventually passed through both houses and was signed by the governor. We must acknowledge that California must do better and increase production. Only 84 new well permits were approved last year. This is way short of what California needs to power its drivers in cities. SB 237 is a compromise that will allow 2,000 new well permits to be approved for the state in Kern County alone. California imports about 880,000 barrels of oil a day, many of which come from countries with less environmental and human rights standards than California. SB 237 comes on the heels of 2 refinery closures that are scheduled to occur very soon. SB 237 is a 10-year sunset clause, so we can determine if it's effective and if we need to review environmental regulations and oil production in the Central Valley. This is a historical step that balances the need for oil production and moves California in the direction of producing more in-state oil, as well as providing more jobs in our Central Valley. The federal government should take notice of this achievement before expanding drilling on our coastlines. I represent the coastline of Orange County and San Diego County. We rely heavily on tourism dollars to fund our cities to pay for public safety and infrastructure. We all have invested in our ocean and beautiful coastline. We protect wildlife and work hard to restore and prevent coastal erosion. There are many local jobs at risk, and previously the United States Navy said drilling would hamper their training mission. placed offshore, I certainly can't guarantee, and neither can the federal government, that there won't be an environmental catastrophe. We have seen disaster strikes too many times. Let's preserve our coastlines and move forward with California's historic SB 237 and put new offshore leases on hold. Over my tenure in Assembly, I have met with many constituents, both Democrats and Republican, on this issue. There's a very little support for drilling on our coastline. If we need to support or reject offshore oil drilling in the 74th Assembly District, it's not going to be just no, it's going to be hell no. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And now I want to hear from another great champion of the environment and sustainability in the California State Assembly, our friend Tasha Burton.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for being here. My name is Tasha Burner. I represent AB 77. Goes from Carlsbad to the north, all the way down the coast to downtown San Diego and Coronado in the south. I think we're all saying that we have some of the most beautiful districts in the state, and it's true. And one of the things, I won't repeat everything everybody said. I think it's really important to note that this is not a partisan issue. Democrats and Republicans want to protect our coast, and we want to protect our children. And that's what I think is really important and what could be lost. We don't want oil drilling in California because of the public health crisis it causes. On our coast, we talk about how it affects our economy. It shuts down our ports. It shuts down trade. It shuts down small businesses. We all saw it just a few years ago. And this is what I want to tell San Diego and the world, is California is not for sale at any price. Whether it's onshore, whether it's offshore, we are not for sale. The health of Californians is not for sale. And this idea that would lower gas prices is false. And it's a false narrative, and it's another lie that people are being told to put pockets of somebody else's money at our expense. So I want to thank Representative Mike Levin. It's about to happen. And one of the things I practice when I wake up grumpy, I have a gratitude practice. And this morning I woke up grumpy for many reasons, including offshore drilling. And I was grateful. I was grateful for this beautiful day. I was grateful for the place we get to live, the people who are our neighbors. And I was grateful for all these amazing leaders behind me who decided to come out and say, hell no to drilling in California. So thank you. With that, I turn it back over to Congressman Levin. Got it right on that side.
Well, I have gratitude, tremendous gratitude for all the great leaders behind me. Anticipating one question that I'm asked is, does this bill ever have a chance of becoming law? And here's what you need to know about that. It very nearly did. It very nearly did. So I have been working this ever since, 2019, 2020. And it was inserted in, this language was inserted in the House bill that passed, known as Build Back Better. Y'all remember Build Back Better? Okay. This was in there. And then, you might recall, Build Back Better became the Inflation Reduction Act, and Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, despite a number of what I thought were pretty favorable conversations with him and his team over a number of years, decided that he didn't want this provision in there. So it literally at the 11th hour, this provision didn't make it in. But I bring that up because I know that we're going to have another opportunity in the months, years ahead. In this Congress with Mike Johnson, boy, that's going to be tough. I don't know what we're doing half the time. However, I feel very confident that if we have the opportunity to get this through the House again, that we're going to find supporters in the Senate. And look, I know plenty of people in Florida that do not want offshore drilling in Florida. Senator Scott just came out and talked about that. I know plenty of people in the Northeast that don't want drilling in the Northeast. And of course, I know people in the Pacific Northwest and all throughout the West Coast that don't want drilling. So what we're doing is we're all coming together. So I have the bill for Southern California. Jimmy Panetta and Salud Carbajal are working on the Central Coast. Jared Huffman, my roommate, is working on the north coast of California up to the Pacific Northwest. The Washington representatives up there are helping the Oregon representatives, and then in the Northeast, Frank Malone is the chairman of Energy and Commerce, and then down in Florida, Kathy Castor, my dear friend from Florida, is working that. So I bring that up because we're going to keep pushing, and we all weighed in with the last administration, which led to their plan to stop these bone leases in California. And we're just going to go back and continue to advocate for this. The people don't want this. I think it's prohibited from a legal perspective as well. So I just want, again, for you all to see the bipartisan, bicameral group of Sacramento that's here. We've got support, great deal of support in the House and the Senate. We're going to continue to fight this legislatively and legally, and from a communications perspective, and with any other tools that we've got in the toolkit. So with that, happy to take any questions that folks have, and all difficult questions I'll yield to my friends from Sacramento.
Representative Levin, Rob Mikuleski with you.
Hi Rob, how are you?
Good. There are existing offshore drilling in California. There's 23 oil and gas production facilities, federal waters, 3 in California waters. Would your bill do anything with the existing?
Most of them are north. There are a handful like Huntington Beach and stuff. So yes, to the extent they're in the Southern California coastal region between here, south of here, and then going up to San Luis Obispo, it would make those they would be able to. My understanding is the state law says they can continue until they're no longer operable. No new leases, and the same with the federal waters, since there's nothing there right now, no new leases in the federal waters. The challenge also is, because it's banned in the state, any equipment or any infrastructure that you would need for for any new federal drilling infrastructure, you have to go through the state waters to get there, and that makes it very tough as well. So I feel like we're on solid ground. It's going to be very, very difficult to see new drill rigs, even with this new plan. But I want legal certainty that they can't do it in federal waters, just like they can't do any new leases in state waters.
So to be clear, your bill would prohibit new
Correct.
new drilling
Correct.
in federal waters and state, or
Just federal. I'll turn it to them for state jurisdiction, but it's banned for the 3 miles going to the federal waters, and then today it is technically allowed, but it's practically, economically very difficult, and this would make it, I would say when the last administration said it's not part of the plan anymore, it takes an act of Congress to do what the administration just did, and it's another example of the administration acting without Congress, and I'll complain plenty about that.
Representative
Yes.
John Carroll from
Hello,
KPBS.
2 days in a
Nice
row.
to see you again.
This is a slightly different backdrop from
Much
the,
nicer.
downtown.
One of you said that there had not been any new leases signed since '68, and one said '84. Can we just clear that up?
Well, 84 is, I think 84 is no new federal.
The last federal.
Yeah, 84 is federal, and then the state, I think, law was 94 that said no new state.
Okay, so 84 federal, 94 state.
Well, 84 federal, 68 was the last new lease in state waters, but in 94 the state legislature passed a ban on any new drilling. Right?
Thanks.
Other questions? Other thoughts? Going once.
Have you already gotten Republicans in Congress, whether they're in the Senate or in the House, to say, yeah, we're going to support this?
Yes, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but all you have to do is take a look. I've been working with my friends on the other side, representing the Carolinas, representing Florida for 8 years now. And ironically, one of them was Lee Zeldin before he was EPA administrator. We worked on coastal protection, estuary issues, and lagoons and things like that. But yeah, the North Carolinians, South Carolinians, Floridians, they don't want any of this either. And to the extent we all need to stand together and fight against it, we will. And in California, I don't think we have a single, other than Lori. We used to have Michelle Steele and others, and they were all against it too, right? Michelle, representing that area north of here, was vehemently opposed to all this as well. But it is very bipartisan. It is very bipartisan. And, you know, I think we all want to see energy costs come down, but this is not the way to do that. The amount of harm that this could do for the de minimis amount of new oil that you would produce, even under the best estimates from the fossil fuel industry. And look, I've had direct conversations with my friends in Texas, with the Texas delegation. We got them on board. It was not easy to do a few years ago. And I'm talking about all the Democrats in Texas, much less the Republicans in Texas. But I got every Texas Democrat on board that, you know, we don't need drilling here. There may be other places, you know, the Gulf or wherever else where it has a different cost-benefit risk calculation. Not here. Not here. Simply not worth it. Other thoughts, questions, complaints? All right. Well, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy this beautiful time away. It'll all be there when we get back. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody. John, how are you?